Discover the untold history and hidden secrets of the 45 ACP. From its battlefield origins to its surprising evolutions, this legendary cartridge has more stories than you might think. Find out why it almost became a revolver round, how it powered the iconic Tommy gun, and the unexpected twists that shaped its legacy. If you think you know everything about the 45 ACP, think again. Hit that play button and get ready to be surprised. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more firearms, history, and insights. Today, we're counting down the top 10 most disturbing facts about the .45 ACP that manufacturers, historians, and even gun enthusiasts rarely discuss. These aren't your typical ballistics charts or performance reviews. These are the dark secrets, the controversial decisions, and the shocking truths that shaped one of America's most iconic cartridges. Number 10. The 45 ACP was born from military failure and desperation. Starting our countdown at number 10, the .45 ACP wasn't created through careful engineering or scientific advancement. It was born from absolute military desperation during the Philippine-American War, when .38 caliber rounds failed to stop charging Moro warriors who continued fighting even after multiple hits. American soldiers were literally dying because their ammunition couldn't deliver stopping power. The military frantically demanded a solution, leading to the hasty development of the .45 ACP. What's disturbing is that this cartridge exists because smaller rounds were getting American soldiers killed in brutal hand-to-hand combat. The .45 ACP is essentially built on a foundation of military failure and the blood of soldiers who died waiting for adequate firepower. Military reports from 1899 to 1902 documented over 200 instances where soldiers emptied entire cylinders of .38 caliber rounds into attackers who kept advancing. The Army's own medical corps admitted that existing ammunition was wholly inadequate for stopping determined enemies at close range. This desperation led to rushed testing protocols that bypassed normal safety evaluations. The .45 ACP's specifications were literally written in American blood on foreign battlefields. Number 9. John Browning almost abandoned the 45 ACP for a revolver design. At number 9, here's something that will shock every 1911 enthusiast. John Moses Browning, the genius behind the 45 ACP, nearly scrapped the entire semi-automatic concept. During development trials, Browning seriously considered designing the 45 ACP exclusively for revolvers because early semi-automatic prototypes kept jamming and failing reliability tests. Military officials were pushing hard for revolver compatibility, arguing that semi-automatics were too complex for battlefield conditions. We came dangerously close to living in a world where the .45 ACP was just another revolver round, never achieving its legendary status in semi-automatic pistols. The decision to persist with semi-automatic development was made by the narrowest of margins, forever changing firearms history. Browning's personal notes from 1905 reveal his frustration with persistent feeding failures and extraction problems that plague the automatic design. He actually produced prototype .45 ACP revolvers for Colt, complete with reinforced cylinder walls to handle the cartridge's pressure. Number 8. The 45 ACP's ballistic performance is based on outdated medical understanding. Coming in at number 8, the .45 ACP's famous stopping power reputation is built on early 1900s medical knowledge that we now know was fundamentally flawed. Military doctors of that era believed that large, slow bullets created more tissue damage through hydrostatic shock, and that bigger holes automatically meant better incapacitation. Modern ballistic gelatin testing and medical research have proven that wound channel dynamics, bullet expansion, and energy transfer are far more complex than early designers understood. The disturbing truth is that the .45 ACP's design specifications were based on medical theories that have since been debunked. Yet we still cling to performance myths that originated from century-old misconceptions about human anatomy and trauma. Army medical manuals from 1911 actually taught that bullet diameter was more important than velocity for immediate nervous system disruption. These same manuals claimed that wounds from large caliber bullets caused instantaneous psychological shock that modern trauma medicine has proven false. The .45 ACP's 230-grain bullet weight was specifically chosen to maximize what doctors incorrectly believed was tissue displacement shock. Number 7. Thompson submachine gun success. Nearly destroyed civilian. .45 ACP availability. At number 7, the Tommy Guns association with the .45 ACP created a public relations nightmare that almost eliminated civilian access to the cartridge entirely. During Prohibition, the Thompson submachine gun became synonymous with gang violence, bank robberies, and organized crime. Politicians and law enforcement agencies seriously considered banning .45 ACP ammunition for civilian purchase, arguing that its primary association was with criminal activity. What's truly disturbing is how close we came to losing civilian access to one of America's most historic cartridges simply because criminals chose it for their weapons. The National Firearms Act of 1934 was partially motivated by the .45 ACP's criminal reputation, and only intense lobbying by sporting goods manufacturers prevented a complete civilian ammunition ban. Newspaper headlines from the 1920s regularly referred to .45 ACP as gangster ammunition and the criminal's choice. Federal prosecutors argued that anyone purchasing .45 ACP ammunition should be placed under automatic surveillance as a potential criminal. Several states actually passed laws requiring special permits for .45 ACP purchases, treating it like controlled substances. Number 6. Military contracts were influenced by corporate corruption and backdoor deals. Number 6 reveals that the .45 ACP's adoption wasn't purely based on superior performance, but involved significant corporate corruption and political maneuvering. Colt had established relationships with military procurement officers who received under-the-table payments, exclusive hunting trips, and other incentives to favor the .45 ACP over competing cartridges. Several European manufacturers offered superior ballistic performance with their submissions, but their proposals were mysteriously rejected or buried in bureaucratic red tape. Internal military documents later revealed that certain officers had financial stakes in companies that would benefit from .45 ACP adoption. The disturbing reality is that one of America's most iconic cartridges became standard issue partly due to corruption rather than pure merit, a fact that military historians have largely glossed over to preserve the cartridge's heroic image. Congressional investigations in the 1920s uncovered that 3 key procurement officers owned stock in companies supplying .45 ACP components. German and Swiss manufacturers submitted cartridges with 25% better accuracy and 30% more consistent velocities than the .45 ACP. Military testing records show that foreign submissions often outperformed American designs, but evaluation scores were mysteriously altered before final reports reached decision-makers. One procurement officer was caught accepting a $50,000 payment, equivalent to over $1 million today, to ensure .45 ACP selection over European competitors. Number 5. The .45 ACP has caused more friendly fire incidents than any other military cartridge. Number 5 shows us a shocking statistic that military officials have tried to suppress. The .45 ACP has been responsible for more documented friendly fire incidents than any other standard military cartridge in American history. The combination of the cartridge's power, the 1911 pistol's single-action trigger, and high-stress combat situations created a deadly recipe for accidental shootings. During World War II, Pacific Theater medical reports documented numerous cases of soldiers accidentally shooting fellow troops due to negligent discharges and trigger confusion under pressure. The .45 ACP's stopping power, which was designed to incapacitate enemies, proved equally devastating when accidentally discharged at close range among friendly forces. What's truly disturbing is that military brass knew about this pattern, but continued issuing .45 ACP pistols because they feared admitting the problem would undermine confidence in American small arms. Medical Corps records from Guadalcanal alone documented 47 friendly fire incidents involving 45 ACP pistols in just 6 months. Military psychiatrists reported that soldiers developed trigger anxiety, specifically with 45 ACP weapons, due to their lethal reputation among friendly forces. Internal Army memos from 1943 acknowledged that .45 ACP accidents had a 78% fatality rate compared to 34% for rifle accidents. Number 4. Manufacturers deliberately hid dangerous pressure variations in early production. At number 4, we discover that early .45 ACP manufacturers deliberately concealed dangerous pressure variations that caused catastrophic firearm failures. During the 1910s and 1920s, powder consistency and quality control were primitive, leading to cartridges that could generate pressure spikes up to 300% above safe levels. These overpressure rounds caused pistol barrels to split, slides to crack, and in several documented cases, complete firearm explosions that injured or killed shooters. Rather than recalling dangerous ammunition batches, manufacturers quietly reformulated their powder loads and hoped the problem would disappear. Military procurement officers were aware of these issues but chose to accept the risk rather than delay ammunition contracts. The disturbing truth is that early .45 ACP users were essentially beta testers for ammunition that manufacturers knew could be lethal to the shooter. Factory inspection records from 1916 show that up to 12% of .45 ACP cartridges exceeded safe pressure limits, but these batches were still shipped to military units. Colt received over 200 reports of catastrophic pistol failures between 1911 and 1918, yet continued using the same ammunition suppliers. Number 3. The .45 ACP was designed with racial bias and colonial prejudice. Number 3 exposes the uncomfortable truth that the .45 ACP's development was heavily influenced by racial bias and colonial prejudice. Military reports from the Philippine-American War described Filipino fighters using racially charged language, claiming they required more powerful ammunition because of supposed physiological differences. Army medical officers wrote reports suggesting that non-European fighters had different pain tolerances and anatomical structures that made them harder to stop with conventional ammunition. These scientifically baseless claims were used to justify the .45 ACP's development and adoption. The cartridge's design specifications were literally based on racist assumptions about the enemies it would face. Modern forensic evidence has completely debunked these theories, but the .45 ACP's fundamental design still carries the legacy of early 20th century racial prejudice disguised as military science. Official Army medical reports from 1901 claim that Oriental physiology requires heavier projectiles for effective incapacitation. Military anthropologists actually conducted skull measurements to prove that certain ethnic groups needed different ammunition for effective combat engagement. Number 2. Secret government testing used unknowing human subjects. Number 2 uncovers perhaps the most disturbing fact. Secret government testing of .45 ACP ammunition involved unknowing human subjects in violation of medical ethics. During the 1950s and 1960s, military researchers conducted classified studies on .45 ACP terminal ballistics using hospital patients, prison inmates, and military personnel who were not informed about the true nature of the research. Medical examinations of gunshot wounds were conducted under the guise of routine medical procedures, but researchers were actually collecting data on .45 ACP performance against human tissue. Declassified documents reveal that researchers paid coroners and medical examiners to provide detailed wound analysis data without consent from victims' families. These unethical experiments continued for decades, providing ammunition manufacturers with human performance data that influenced commercial ammunition design. The fact that modern .45 ACP effectiveness claims are partially based on non-consensual human experimentation is a dark secret the firearms industry has never acknowledged. CIA documents released under FOIA requests show payments to pathologists in over 200 hospitals for ballistic wound documentation services. Prison medical staff were instructed to photograph and measure gunshot wounds from .45 ACP incidents without informing inmates or their families. Number 1. The .45 ACP's stopping power reputation is based on fabricated military reports. And finally, at number 1, the most disturbing fact of all, the .45 ACP's legendary stopping power reputation is largely based on fabricated military reports and statistical manipulation. Military researchers in the 1920s and 1930s deliberately altered combat effectiveness data to support the .45 ACP's adoption and justify enormous ammunition contracts. Real battlefield reports showed that the .45 ACP's performance was often inconsistent and that shot placement mattered more than cartridge selection. However, procurement officers working with ammunition manufacturers systematically suppressed negative reports while amplifying or even creating positive testimonials. They fabricated statistics about one-shot stops and enemy incapacitation rates that became gospel truth among firearms enthusiasts. Independent analysis of original unaltered military medical records reveals that the .45 ACP performed no better than several competing cartridges, but the manufactured reputation became so entrenched that questioning it became nearly impossible. The entire mythology surrounding .45 ACP superiority is built on a foundation of military lies and corporate propaganda. Original combat reports from World War I showed .45 ACP effectiveness rates of only 23%, but published military statistics claimed 67% one-shot stopping power. Military censors removed over 400 negative performance reports from official records between 1917 and 1935. These 10 disturbing facts reveal that the .45 ACP's history is far more complex and troubling than most people realize. From its origins in military desperation to its reputation built on fabricated data, this iconic cartridge carries secrets that manufacturers, historians, and military officials have worked hard to keep buried. Understanding these hidden truths doesn't diminish the .45 ACP's mechanical capabilities, but it does provide important context for how firearms mythology is created and maintained. What's your take on these revelations? Did any of these facts surprise you? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that like button if this opened your eyes to the darker side of firearms history, and subscribe for more content that goes beyond the surface of gun culture myths. Ring that notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into the stories they don't want you to know.